Hello and welcome to an evil episode of the Drywall Podcast. I'm the devil.
Whoa. Hey, devil. No, I said that you could do part of the outro, but I did not want you to do the intro.
Wanted me to do the intro.
No, buddy. No, just the outro, but I appreciate the enthusiasm. Welcome to an patient episode of the Drywall Podcast. I am your host, Nick Harmon. I apologize for the misunderstanding there at the beginning. With us today, who do we got? Addam Luce of MCI Paint and Drywall out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Addam has worked in drywall his whole life and is now a supervisor with MCI Paint and Drywall. We talk about running crews, working with his father and brother, and that one time that he may have gotten caught in a Catholic girl's bathroom.
So we pull in, we get all of our tools, and we're kind of milking this job, trying to get it done. And, well, I had to use the restroom, right? But it wasn't like a full-on job, so there was no biffies, right? So I go, well, you know what? I'll just find the boys' bathroom in the school. Nobody's here.
Sure.
I go looking for the bathroom, right? I couldn't find a boys' bathroom anywhere. I'm like, well, it's all girls' bathrooms. It's like, well, nobody's here. So I'm just going to use it. So I jump in there, close the stall, and of course I had to do, the big one. So I'm in there in the stall. I hear a bell ring, right? The bell goes. I'm like, oh, they probably didn't turn the bells off, right? Because it's, they're not going to. I didn't realize all of a sudden the bathroom floods full of Catholic girls. Like it was a Catholic girls' school.
He may have gotten caught with his pants down in that instance, but he is fully prepared for this episode of the Drywall Podcast, and I'm sure you are going to love getting to know Addam Luce. Shout out to Can-Am Tools for sponsoring the Drywall Podcast in the month of November. This is the third month that Can-Am has sponsored us, and we appreciate them for that. This is no ordinary month of sponsorship. We'll be giving out some amazing Can-Am tools after every single episode in the month of November. Head on over to our Instagram page and like the Drywall Podcast page, and then be on the lookout for posts mentioning this particular giveaway and follow the instructions. This week, Can-Am is giving away a Gold Core Professional Toolkit. This thing comes with everything from roller pulls to glazer heads. You are going to be stoked if you follow the directions and win. I look forward to hearing from you on our Instagram page. Guests of the Drywall Podcast will receive a sweet swag bucket from CSR just for being on the Drywall Podcast. But for now, Addam Luce of MCI Paint and Drywall on the 72nd episode of the Drywall Podcast. Let's get into it. We have Addam Luce, AAA Drywall out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, with us today. Thank you for being on the Drywall Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
What in the world are we going to talk about? So Kevin Bush texted me out of the blue, and people that listen to the podcast will know because he has 3 episodes now, all pertaining to adventures in drywall. You've known Kevin Bush for a little while. Kevin was like, dude, you need to call Addam. I've already got him primed. Give him a call. Let's get you on the podcast. So here we are. How exciting.
We've known Kevin for quite some time. I think we're probably working towards 20 years, I'd almost imagine now.
Oh, wow.
So, I was going to say, Kevin started out with my father. So my dad used to work as more or less a rep for Better Than Ever Tools, which was a company out of BC, Canada. And he would travel around quite a bit and demonstrate the tools to the unions and to drywall companies all over the country. And he found himself I believe it was somewhere on the East Coast. I think it might even been in Philadelphia area where Kevin was at the time. But I might be wrong on that. But so long story short, they got together, kind of became quick friends. And then, and I think at the same time, Kevin was working for the Grabber company along with Tom Sorensen. Okay. And then they connected and then essentially started coming up to Minneapolis. And we kind of formed a relationship, and they would use a lot of our jobs that we were currently working on as kind of like the guinea pig jobs for a lot of the new products that were up and coming through Grabber. So Kevin would come through, and
Kevin's talked about a couple of his like sales pitches where he's like, "Hey, you don't know me, and I wouldn't buy anything from me if I was you, and but you might want to take some time to really consider this because I'm an expert," that kind of approach.
Right. Yeah.
I'm already here. You may as well give me 5 seconds.
So he's a character.
Yeah, he's a character. And then, so what's your dad's name?
My dad's name is Andy. And then I think you also spoke to my brother who was with me when we first introduced, that's Alex. So that's where the AAA came from. So it was Andy, Alex, Addam.
There we go. It's all coming together. Early in the show, it's coming together. I like it. Yeah. Very cool. So you were just kids kicking around at this time. You're saying 20 years ago. I guess you weren't kids. You were in your 20s. Yep. Cool. Were you working for your dad at that time? What was your dad's company was AAA Drywall at that time?
Well, so it was actually kind of interesting, and I'll sum it up rather quickly so we can get right to the root of it. But so early on, my brother had moved out to the Minneapolis area from Bellingham, Washington, where we had grown up. Okay. And started working in the union. At the time was the local 386 union. And I would come out in the summers and stay for periods of 2-3 months, and would just come out and stay with him and work in the union. So at one point I decided to just kind of make a jump and say, I'm just going to spend a year in Minneapolis and just work in the union, save up some money. But I never left. So I just kind of, from that point on, I was in Minneapolis. So my father at that point decided to join us, and he's originally from Minnesota, so it wasn't a big shock or anything. So he came out, got established here. We all three of us were in the union for about a year or so together as kind of like a team. And then the market was just so ripe for, in the area that we were in the Wayzata, kind of Edina, western side of the cities, basically. So a lot of the higher end, I guess you want to call it, the kind of the wealthier neighborhoods where it surrounds Lake Minnetonka. A lot of people recognize the name Lake Minnetonka, but a lot of big homes out there. So we just said, we're going to focus primarily on higher end residential homes. So we had to make a decision though, because we couldn't all three of us just jump out of the union at the same time, because it was definitely one of those by the bootstrap style companies. So we didn't have a big financial backing of any sort. We literally took it from job number one, and we just saved every bit we could and did all the work ourselves, and just kind of worked our way up. And my brother, I think he stepped out first and started establishing some relationships with some of the surrounding contractors. And once we got a couple of jobs, bid and got the contracts, and we felt it was safe for us to, and then my dad and I, we both quit the union, and we said, okay, here we go. So it was.
How long a period of time was that before your bro started the business and then you guys jumped ship?
It wasn't too long. I would say maybe a couple of months, if I'm not mistaken. I would say it was in the summer. And because we definitely didn't want to do it in the winter, because winters out here are pretty brutal. So we wanted to have a good stretch of time to get ramped up, and build up our reputation and everything. So he left, and then we kind of jumped right in. I'd say probably sometime in the summer, but he left maybe 2-3 months. It wasn't even hardly that, because I think we already had a couple of jobs cooking like, as far as we were still in the union going to work every day, but we were still making calls and still kind of getting things set up.
I've got a lot of questions. Is that a tough, prior to that, you going from college, correct? You're coming out
actually college was never
why were you coming out to Minnesota periodically during the summer?
Well, it was a lot of work happening out here. So there was the volume and the sheer amount of work and the need for manpower in the Minneapolis major metro area was kind of going through the roof. And
but you didn't want to be a drywaller though. Like you really thought honestly your bro was doing it. You're like, whatever, he's doing it. I'll go.
It was kind of like it was inherited. I mean, it was one of those things that my father, we just kind of grew up ever since we were both, my brother and I both old enough to push a broom around. We were on a job site.
Okay.
My dad I always owned his own company, growing up. He never really worked for anybody other than himself for the most part, as we got older and we became a little bit more useful, I guess, skill wise.
Yeah.
My dad took that and essentially would use us as kind of a crew of sorts, when he need it. And then as we became older and older, we just kind of refined our skills. And we definitely leaned towards the taping side. I mean, all of us can hang drywall, no problem. But for some reason, we gravitated more for being finishers. I think we had a bit more of a knack for it.
Okay.
So we got to that point.
And then also that jump from the union in Minneapolis to owning your own company, that's a challenging jump because the union's cushy, man. You get a nice paycheck. They got full benefits. You have vacation pay. Like the union takes care of you, and it's kind of gravy, but it's also a little bit boring because you're like going to the job site. It's like break time. Yeah. You got lunch. You got half an hour for lunch. Like whatever. It's so boilerplate.
It's kind of the military of drywall. So it's very regimented and I don't know. I got to the point where I didn't like to be told that I was using the bathroom too long. You know what I mean? So because everything's on the clock. So I think all three of us, just our personalities in general, we were very confident in our ability. We were.
No, wait a second, Addam. Were you using the bathroom too long?
I probably was. That's where you could escape. Sometimes it was the only source of sitting in a dirty biffy.
I'm just gonna go get my bearings about me.
Just get a break or take a little.
I was that way too, though. In the union, I was like, is this really all there is? Like, there's no way that I can continue doing this. Like, and it's just, and no shame to the dudes that are in the union. And it's very good route to go. And some people are more inclined to, and I'm not joking when I say good pay. Like, so the union sets the standards. You get health benefits, vacation pay. It's very secure. Like a person coming out of college, it depends on what you do, but many college graduates won't make what a journeyman drywall finisher will make in the union. Like,
That is correct. But I will say too, to your point, and everything you said is absolutely true. But there was also plenty of times when work got slow. The union was there to ensure that you were essentially employed, and they were supposed to make sure that you always had a place to go. But there was plenty of times that we had to sit on the bench, for weeks at a time. They'll farm you out to other companies and let you work for everybody, and which was great. But there was no guarantees there either, And there was a lot of times where you just were the low guy on the totem pole, or just weren't there as long as the other guys.
Yes.
You're the first one to get cut.
That's what I was going to say. Like, I remember I was a 50% apprentice. I made it up to 70%. I was doing the apprenticeship program. I'm first generation, but I remember there was a lot of political crap, like if the foreman didn't, I was cocky, of course, like the foreman didn't like me. If they didn't like me, then it'd be like, oh, I gotta let you go, and it's like, why the fuck's that guy I work harder than that dude,
Exactly. Oh, I got told. I was very much like you. I was very, very cocky, very much sure of myself.
Yeah.
and I have to say I entered the union as a full journeyman, so I didn't have to go through the program. I didn't have to go through the school that I entered right as a journeyman. So and to my point, I mean, to my credit, I mean, I definitely I was legit. I wasn't trying to sneak in or anything, because with drywall, the thing with drywall, it's very much the proof is definitely on the wall. They can tell if you're lying pretty quick. Yeah. So I entered that program. They know. That,
I know.
That's not journeyman work. So
I couldn't run like a butt and a band when I came in. I could spot screws and I could walk stilts and spin an outlet. But like run corner bead, like I couldn't do that. I didn't know any of the tools were a mystery to me.
Okay. So I was already running boxes, running all that stuff. So I was definitely a legit journeyman. But I came in very, very, very cocky like you. And the thing with the union, because I came from a world where everything was, time was very important. Like the quicker you got the job done, as far as turning it over, still keeping the quality high, is how you got paid. But in the union, everything was set to the clock. Everything was just hourly. So I came in and tried to just kind of blow it all out of the water. Like, I'm going to show all these guys, I'm going to outwork everybody. And there was times I got pulled aside by the older guys saying, "Hey, you're working yourself out of a job. Slow it down.
Slow it down, big fella.
Take it down a notch. So, which I was like, really? Like, that's so strange. Like, I've always been taught to work harder, so it was a different world. But, and like I said, the union has its place for us, and I can't say that it didn't help out a lot, but there was just a lot of things I didn't quite enjoy about it, but there was also a lot of it that I think is extremely beneficial. And some people are just more built that way. They like the regiment. They like the waking up knowing what's next. They don't really have to put a lot of thought into it. They just got to be there on time, pick up the tools, and they just kind of go.
Sorry, I'm shifting gears. I'll steer the boat a little bit, man.
Please.
You jump on with your dad and your bro with AAA. AAA is at its start. You guys, obviously, you're three ballers. You start blowing it out right away. People find out pretty quick. These guys are good. You get busy. You get busy, and take me through it fairly quickly. Where does that business go? You grew that business pretty quickly, right? And you had some employees and stuff.
Yeah, it happened rather quickly. We landed a fairly large contract for a very well-known builder in the area, which is not the easiest thing to do around these parts, because a lot of people are very used to working with the same people for the last 25, 30 years. We ended up getting the bid for a house on Lake Minnetonka, and it was in the Wayzata area, and it was probably about $6 to $8 million home.
Okay.
From that point on, we knew we had to kind of knock that out of the park. We had to. And
now, how's your price? How competitive are you on your price point? Something like that. Yeah, you want to get the job. Is the builder beating you up a little bit at that point? You're establishing a relationship.
Yes and no. I think they definitely knew we were hungry for it. But we also knew that we were going to probably take a little bit of a beating just so we could get into the club. You know what I mean? So
all right.
We weren't trying to make all the money in the world on the first one.
I don't think there's any shame in that. I think that that's strategic from a business standpoint, so long as you don't continue to get beat up. For the next 5 years. Hey man, you charge this X amount. So after that first job, you guys did knock it out of the park, I assume, and we did a good
job. And what really is funny about how that whole thing worked? I mean, yes, we did very good work, and all three of us were very active on the job. We all worked very hard on the job. It was, I think, a lot of it is just we knew how to establish relationships, and we knew how to keep them, and we knew how to be fair with our customers. But at the same time, people liked us. I mean, it sounds not doing the whole path, but. Yeah. But we showed up to the job. We were clean cut. Our clothes were clean. Yep. We presented ourselves well. We knew how to talk to the customers. Because in drywall, there's plenty of times that we did jobs where we're in people's homes as they're living there. And within a matter of a half hour, 45 minutes of talking to the homeowner, I mean, they're giving us their code to their garage and how to get into the house and blah, blah, blah. But they trusted us within no time, which was kind of strange, you know. But
Stop me if I'm wrong. I think that has a little bit to do with the union has a standard. And I know that I took from the union one simple thing was wearing whites. I don't know if they do that out in Minnesota.
They do.
But it's a pro. Yeah. It's like a pro thing. I remember the first day as an apprentice, I showed up with jeans and they made fun of me. You know, they razz you like, and I had a plastic pan. They passed it around. No. They passed the plastic pan, and I knew how to spot screws and shit. I knew better, but I was like, I need a pan. I stopped by Home Depot or whatever, grabbed a plastic pan. They passed it around. Each person took their turn to roast me. Like, this is like first day. You know, right out of the gate. I get there like 15 minutes early. They've already been sitting there for a half hour because they got nothing better to do, you know. But the point being, the union really drove home, keep the mixing area clean, like keep your tools clean, look professional. I love that stuff though. I loved all that. I thought that was really good.
Like I said before, it's the kind of the military of drywall. And what does the military teach?
Right.
Keep your clothes pressed, keep your bed, tight. You know, they teach you how to, and that does teach you standards, right? Teaches you how to operate in a way. So, because it was just, we'd shake our heads at some of these guys that we would see on the jobs. You know, they show up in the clothes that they wore yesterday,
smoking,
full of mud, or
smoking in the house,
sweatpants, smoking on the homeowner's patio. You know, with sweatpants that have holes in them in the crotch or something, and it's just like. They look like a wreck, you know. So we went the complete opposite direction. Like, you know, we kept a very, good standard, and I think, frankly, that helped us in so many ways. And then we got connected to a couple other companies that were also kind of in their infant stages.
Oh, sure.
And, which is funny because I still see them around now, and they're massive companies. And I remember when we were doing houses for them back in the very beginnings of them and us.
Right.
But they're still around, and it's really cool to see that. But yeah, we got fortunate enough to make those relationships, and after that, we still had to obviously bid the jobs and go through the motions, but not so much were we worried about whether or not we were going to get it, because if numbers were off or whatever, they would just simply call us and say, hey, we're kind of need to adjust this or just they basically just said make it work so it works for everybody. So again. The relationships were built. The quality of the work was there.
Yeah.
The combination of those two things, it was kind of like magic. It was just like it just went.
And then so much success that you had to start bringing on employees. Were you bringing on like journeymen at the time, or were you training people? And how large did you grow?
Well, we brought in a couple of people. One was a journeyman, and some people that we did, teach from a more of a, maybe not such a journeyman scale, but tried to bring them up. But mostly it was through, it was more of a subcontract relationship that we had with a gal. Her name was Jovita.
Okay.
And Jovita was a woman, and she was like the king of all these guys that she would run, and
nice.
And she was a very dynamic lady. I mean,
she was a boss bitch.
Oh man, by every sense of it. Yeah, she was very, very good at what she did. And
I need to get a hold of Jovita with an H.
Yeah, so Jovita, she was very unique, and she was just the nicest gal, but she took no crap from nobody, and she would get things done. And yeah, she was frankly, without her, when we ran into her, because the hanging issue was always our problem, because the size of the houses and the difficulty level of these houses, to get them hung in the amount of time and the quality that she would have it done for us was something that us three as a family would never come close to.
So she was gold. She was gold. You guys would pay her whatever.
We just said she was family. I mean, honestly, we got very close to her as a company and as a person. And she had a couple of guys that were also very close. And she was a a wonderful gal, and we had nothing but respect for her.
Beautiful. I like it when people are comfortable. You're have you listened to any of the Drywall podcasts out of curiosity?
I did. I listened to Kevin's. Yeah, so I did listen to all the.
He's funny.
Yeah, he's fun. Yeah, it's funny because Kevin.
He's great, man.
He just hasn't. He's always been the same. He's just
he'd take off and just start talking about any topic. And it's really fun to dive into those old stories about the adventures in drywall. Like those crack me up. Well,
so AAA got written up in Grabber for Adventures in Drywall for the Walls and Ceilings magazine.
Walls and Ceilings.
AAA
got written up. Were you guys like sometimes
they wrote a story?
Sometimes they have Contractor of the Year or something. Did you guys get that?
We got that. Yep. And then we also, I'm pretty sure then Kevin wrote an article in regards to our company as well. So we did get published in Walls and Ceilings.
So you guys were savvy marketeers as well. But prior to that, I want a little background on. I know that your dad was friends with Kevin. How did this whole Better Than Ever rep thing start?
So that started originally out of Bellingham, Washington. My dad.
This was prior to AAA?
Prior to Kevin. Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is before AAA by quite a bit. So we had established this relationship with these guys because where we live, Bellingham is not that far away from the BC, Vancouver area.
Yeah.
So my dad came across these tools because a lot of it was due to the fact that, he was at the time still doing a lot of taping and a lot of work. So his shoulders and a lot of his, things that go out on tapers, like rotator cuffs and back issues, it's a pretty common injuries or things that tapers suffer from because it's a lot of repetitive motion. Carpal tunnel. Yep. So these tools provided an outlet to where it essentially got rid of everything, except for the boxes. But for the taping part of it, it got rid of the tube, and the angle heads were very well known for how they finished, and also the sanding pole was what put them on the map. It's that white sanding pole that with the head that didn't flip. So everybody had one, whether they knew it was Better Than Ever tools or not. Everybody had one. You gotta be ready for the curveballs. That's for sure.
I have gotten better. I've gotten better, and I'm navigating a separation right now. 12 years. We got an 8-year-old, so that's challenging. We're pretty good, but it gets dicey. Yeah. We're about 8 months in, and now we're like hitting the holidays, so a little bit stressful. We got into it yesterday. We got into it. We did a popcorn ceiling cover, which is pretty common. We've done it several times. I have one, I've probably done 30, where it's got asbestos, so we're locking in the popcorn. And instead of abatement or anything like that, I would cover that shit with like all-purpose joint compound. And then we did 2 coats, all-purpose joint which you can do fairly efficiently. I mean, I can do that. I can do 2 coats of joint compound faster than somebody can hang, finish, and texture a fucking ceiling. And then you're ready for Fresco Harmony. So then 2 coats, and then you go right into your 3-coat Fresco Harmony system. We use Gallery Pearl. The ceiling's done. It's not perfect, but it's smooth as a board, and it looks like Venetian plaster. Done. Clients love it.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
We do that kind of a lot, but the one yesterday, so I had about 10 years ago, I had one that like a large section fell in. Like, like I push the limits of mud, and it's fine. Like people can be like, oh, you can't cover up popcorn, or you can't go over existing painted texture.
Oh, I've done it plenty of times. Yeah.
I've never had existing painted texture fail ever. 20 years.
Nope.
You can mud over that all day long, unless there's like oil or something.
If that popcorn's sealed, I mean, what I'll do is sometimes I'll scrape it just to get the knobs off, and maybe give it a good hard sand just to kind of smooth it out. I'll coat right over that. I use a paint roller. Just use that with the mud. Yeah.
And you can scrape it too. There's like, that goes faster, but it's messy. I mean, and don't kid yourself. There's a lot of time in scraping and cleaning. I can smooth out a popcorn ceiling with mud faster than somebody can scrape and clean all that shit up. And even when you clean it up, you still have crap all over the place. Like, I don't care who you are, man. Popcorn is messy. It's a nightmare.
Yeah.
This job, like 10 years ago, we had a section fall in. I recoated it. That it's like so rare that it's happened once in all the times that I've been doing popcorn. And it happened, of course, on this job. It fell in. Sure. Okay. I told Jack, like, this happened once before, just coat it, go over it. All that was fine. He goes in yesterday to put the final coat of sealer, 2 hours, seal the ceiling, clean up, move furniture back in. We're done. Fucking crack, like from underneath, like they don't come out too until you throw the sealer on. Crack comes out right here, like in the middle of the ceiling. And then the homeowner's like, oh, my dad's going to notice this one. And, there was another hairline crack. And I was just, fuck. And then,
son of a bitch.
Yeah, you know how it is. And then so that happened, which is fine. We're going to fix it. I know how to patch it. It's kind of a bitch to patch, but the lighter colors patch okay. But you got to know what you're doing. And then we have match paint. You can kind of fold out a little bit, but it's not going to be perfect, but it looks a hell of a lot better than the popcorn. And then I went back to my office. Internet wasn't working. So it was like one of those days. Fight with the wife. Yeah. Cracks on the ceiling. Job's supposed to be finished, and then internet out.
Internet's out. Yeah.
I'm done. Like, I'm done. I'm going home.
Once 2 or 3 things happen, it's just, you know what, this day's gone. Yeah.
I'm gonna go eat. I'm gonna go have some food. Like, fuck. I
had the same thing this morning. I just said, you know what, I'm out of here. I gotta turn the phone off and just.
Yeah.
I'm gonna lose my mind. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Talk to Nick. Have a nice conversation. Exactly. And I
change the whole tempo.
Yeah, and I like the section that we're getting into with the better than ever tools. I do like talking a lot about the tools. And this month of the Drywall Podcast is sponsored by Can-Am Tools, who I know bought better than ever. So it's all coming around. It's all coming around full circle. But a couple of questions. Didn't Better Than Ever Tools, weren't they birthed out of another company?
I think there may have been a different name. I'm not quite sure. The owner, the creator, his name was Mel. Okay. And his last name is escaping me, but Mel was a very unique guy. He was an inventor by nature. He could, I think the guy made golf clubs. I mean, he would come up with all sorts of crazy stuff, just kind of out of the blue, but, very intelligent guy. And then he also had, Jim, I can't remember Jim's last name. Jim was kind of like I guess you could call him like the CEO, kind of the next guy in charge.
Okay.
And then my father was kind of their lead guy to get the tools out there and do sales.
Wow. So he was pretty involved. He was pretty involved in Better Than Ever as a major player. Yeah.
He spent a lot of time, he was on the road. I mean, a long time. He was traveling all over the place. He'd do competitions. He's him and I used to go help him on certain things just because I knew the tools, and I could help him set up, and we'd go to like drywall yards sometimes and set up like a booth and do demonstrations for guys that would come in, or they'd set up like a lunch or something, and we'd do a whole presentation in front of 100 people. And there was times that people would, challenge us, so we do challenges, we do side by side. Yeah. So it was kind of a lot of fun. And then, I went to, like I said, I think we talked about a little bit, like, we went out to Harlem, New York, and worked for a company out there. And so, yeah, we got to see a lot of the country and got to do a lot of cool stuff. And it was, Better Than Ever was kind of hitting the scene. And This was all preceding
AAA Drywall.
Yeah, this is all I was still living in Bellingham, Washington at the time.
This is the prequel to AAA. Yep. And we should have talked about it first, but that's okay. And then at a certain point in time, so you're gathering all these contacts, a lot of knowledge about the industry. Yep. the way different people do finishing in different parts of the country. You meet this crazy guy, Kevin, for grabber, plus probably a lot of different characters like Kevin throughout the United States and beyond. What, and I think I talked about it with Wolfgang. So there's an interview with Wolfgang where we talk about this a little bit, but then Better Than Ever ends up selling to Can-Am. Was that
further?
Was that the end?
Yeah, I think that was after. Yeah, that was, I think, right at the very end. It was kind of the relationship with Better Than Ever and my dad was not, I think they still remained friends, as far as in the personal lives, but through the business part of it, he was doing very little with them at the time. I think here and there they would ask him to go out and do a demonstration, but it was just kind of a paid by job per event or whatever you want to call it. So they had kind of moved on at that point. So, but yeah, we continued to use the tools. And the thing is that being in the union and using the Better Than Ever tools, which wasn't like Ames kind of dominates the, at least out in this area, in the Minneapolis area, is a very popular brand. Okay. So, and they would see us using our tools, and people just couldn't help but ask questions or wonder what the heck you're doing or whatever. So we just ended up kind of always teaching people what we were doing, no matter where we would go. And a lot of people liked the angle heads, and they liked the sanding pole, and they liked certain aspects of the tools, but the taping system a lot of people didn't like because it came out of a bucket out of a super taper, they called it.
Okay.
And it went into the bucket, then you put it into a smaller bucket that was on your hip.
What?
So you just lifted the tape and you would go along the wall. Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen that system.
Yeah. It's one of those things you see it and go, oh, that's nuts. That's crazy.
So it's kind of like it's like a double slot box. Yeah.
Basically, yeah. So it's there. The super taper you kind of lace the tape into the super taper. It goes down, which is into the bottom of the bucket, and by kind of a static style, it grabs the mud, puts mud on one side of the tape, and then you can adjust how much mud goes on that side of the tape. But then you have a belt on that holds like a 2-gallon bucket that you stick in front of you. You just keep pulling that tape and you kind of lace it into the bucket. Okay. And then as it comes out of the bucket, it comes out kind of the way you laced it in. Okay. Sorry, there you go. So then once you pull it out, the heaviest thing you're lifting is the tape. Yeah. And you not only that, but you got a lot of material with you, and you don't have to keep going back and pumping. And you're not lifting a big heavy bazooka, basically is what it came down to. That was
that's the advantage. That's the advantage to the slot box system. So this is like a slot box system with some bells and whistles. Yeah, because like the banjo was very. Do you stay cleaner? Hardcore. Do you stay cleaner?
I would say no, honestly. No. I would say you're probably as equal. Maybe you still get dirty. Yep. Okay. Yep. So we wear gloves, because you're using your hands. So
yeah. Do you like that system?
I actually did.
Okay.
To be honest with you, the string and tape was my least favorite part of taping. Wasn't a fan of it to begin with.
Yeah, but you ran the bazooka, right?
Yeah, we did, but was very limited amount of time because my dad was very much an advocate of not allowing us to suffer the same kind of pains and ailments that he's got.
So maybe he was a little gun shy. I mean, I ran plenty of bazooka, and it's like I don't have any issues. I mean, if you're, you can run the bazooka for quite a while. We're talking like
you can
20 years of wear and tear. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And we were pretty strong young kids, but he was just like, what? This is a cheaper, better, faster way to do it. Yeah. And plus, he wanted to kind of limit us, that way. But I mean, I ran the boxes for. Yeah, I mean, I think on occasion,
pound for pound, the box is more wear and tear on your body than the bazooka.
I agree. I agree.
I mean, the box, you get all that pressure, especially if you're like up on stilts running an 8 foot.
You're just always.
That's
always
really.
Always,
it's really hard. Very, very cool. So Better Than Ever sold to. That's interesting. Better Than Ever sold to Can-Am.
Can-Am. So Can-Am was always, they had a very similar kind of a tool that was kind of head to head with it once in a while too. So I think it was a very similar concept. Can-Am came along. They had a market. Better Never had a market. Yeah, and I think eventually just that I think they just ran out of juice. You know what I mean? I just don't know if that Better Never had enough oomph, to want to stay afloat and push it. And that's kind of where my dad, kind of was involved. He was essentially trying to get that product out into the market and get it to where people understood it, knew how to use it, and it wasn't foreign to them. I think it would have been an outstanding product for like homeowners, even if they wanted to do small projects on their own, because you didn't have to buy, a tube is what, a couple of grand, a few grand.
Yeah.
It breaks down a lot. It's very expensive to maintain. So if you want to do your own basement, a company like Better Never, their whole tool system is pretty, that's a good DIYer. You know what I mean? You could get away with that.
Do they still have that system?
They do. Yeah.
And what's it called?
Well, it's the Super Taper is what it was called with Better Never. I'm not quite sure if it's been renamed. But the Super Taper was the taping system, which essentially all you would need is the Super Taper. And I think that costs somewhere between a $200, $300 investment. And that Super Taper will outlast you and I. I mean, there's nothing that breaks on it. There's no parts to replace necessarily.
Bazooka's got a lot of parts.
Angle heads, a lot of moving parts, and they break down frequently. Right now I'm in the parking lot of the job site that I'm supervising. It's a 260 some unit building, and I got 40 tapers here, and they're constantly taking their tubes in for repair and because they're using
40 bazookas.
No, I'd say about 5 bazookas and 40 tapers.
Okay,
got only
40
so many
tapers.
Guys. Yeah,
that's a shitload, dude.
Yeah.
No wonder going on the podcast is a nice reprieve.
It's more like therapy right now.
Yeah, this is great. This is great.
Session. Yeah,
just gonna keep it nice and soft. Nice and soft. We have a nice
I'm
discussion.
Close enough to keep my eye out. Yeah, but it's I can take a step back. Yeah, take a little break.
That's funny. And you're working.
A little nutty.
You're working at an MCI.
MCI Drywall. Yeah, they've been in.
MCI Drywall.
Minnesota.
Okay.
Yep. So it's MCI Paint and Drywall, and they're out of Burnsville. They've been around for some time. It's a great company. They're non-union, and but we work on predominantly multifamily homes, so apartment buildings.
Okay, so you're cranking there with the bazookas. What kind of tools are we running there? What do you like?
Well, they do a lot of tape tech. That's kind of basic. I mean, a lot of you see some guys using North Star boxes, or it just depends on some kind, how frequently they go through them.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's all their typical stuff. Just the regular stuff everybody else is using. Nothing out of the ordinary.
Okay.
But I would say.
Now, I'm just curious about brands. Sometimes we talk about brands on the show. Who do you like? Somebody likes Can-Am, somebody likes, Tape Tech, somebody likes AIM, somebody likes Columbia, all that.
I see them all.
Yeah.
I see every single one of them. Yep.
Yeah.
Including Can-Am, including Tape Tech, AIMs. It's just a lot of it is delegated. I think a lot of these guys start in the union at some point. And sometimes they get trained on a certain style or brand of tool. And it's not because they like one or better than the other. It's just that they're familiar with a certain type or a certain brand. So they stick with it. But you see the guys that are, maybe had started more in a residential or in a non-union. That's where you see more of the variety of tools, because they kind of pick and choose, or maybe they bought some tools from a pawn shop or from a guy that was retiring and he sold all his tools, so. Yeah, you never know where it all comes from, but it's just you don't see. I mean, I see everything out here. It's they all kind of have their own little likes and dislikes.
Right. And you guys were
Coke and Pepsi,
Yeah, you guys were hanging out with Kevin recently. That's why he was told me to reach out. What were you doing hanging out with him?
It was actually my brother. Actually, I wasn't with them. My brother works for Ecolab, and he travels quite a bit, and so he gets to be able to kind of all over the country kind of thing. So if he's in an area where, we got friends or family or whatever,
okay.
he'll always try to make a point to stop by. And so he ran into Kevin and then, so then my brother was just in town with me just as of late last week. And then we called Kevin just to kind of give him a hard time.
Yeah.
And, but then we watched your podcast with Kevin on there.
Oh, okay.
Kevin, that's really cool. He's like, yeah, you should do it. So I'm like, yeah, sounds great. So that's how that all came about. So
cool.
But yeah, my brother was with Kevin. He's out in Montana now and middle of nowhere. So
nice. And it's very cool. And are you like a superintendent or foreman with MCI? What's the story there?
Yep. So
okay.
I'm a job soup. Yep. And
okay.
essentially soup, kind of a PM role. You kind of wear a lot of hats, but I essentially manage the crews, order the material, keep the relationship with the GCs, you know what I mean? Okay. I'm kind of the in between. So make sure all the things are getting done and put out the fires kind of deal. And
do you have multiple jobs that you work, or they'll just put you on this one particular job?
They usually try to put you just on the one. The size of this one is definitely it's just going to be this one. I actually have another guy with me that's we're splitting it because it's the sheer size of the building and the difficulty level of some of the the things the details that are in some of these units and shear wall patterns and
scaffolding,
all these things we got to keep scaffolding. It's just there's a lot of moving parts in these buildings. So yeah, this one's a beast. It's a tricky one. So
do you like that though? Do you like biting off a big chunk like that?
I do. It's a challenge and I like it because every day it's got something new.
Yeah.
And I used to work in these buildings, you know what I mean? So I used to be on the other side of it. So I was the taper. I was the guy that was, trying to bust these units out. And I used to look at guys that are now me going, oh, that guy's got an easy job. He just sits in his truck all day and looks at him like,
doing podcasts.
That guy
sitting there doing a podcast.
Yeah, exactly. All he does is podcasts and drinks coffee and does nothing. Yeah, exactly. I'm dead serious. My brother and I, we watch these guys walk. We used to, the clean guys. They're always clean. Here we are full of sand or dirt, mud or something. And, we see these guys walking through with, the clean clothes. And now I'm kind of that guy. And now I realize that, God, that guy had a really freaking hard job.
Yeah.
I had no clue.
Yeah. It's all relative.
It's a hard job.
It's all relative. There are times when, we've got a job in Santa Fe and I'm like, God, do I have Jack do it? I have one guy. I line him up. He knocks him down to keep it real simple. And then I'm focused on my product. I've got this job in Santa Fe. It's like, and sometimes I just want to shut everything down for a couple of days. And I'll be like, I'm going to go do that job and just go work. Cause that's therapy for me, I don't know if I will on this one. We're it gets tricky to where you're just, if I'm on the wall, then I'm not forwarding my company. I'm not forwarding, I have podcasts to edit. I have things to do now, which is fine. It's all stressful, but it's not like roses. Sometimes I think Jack has it better. All he has to do is show up. He makes good money, man. He's busting color joint compound walls. All he's got to do is show up and make it happen,
Right.
He doesn't have to deal with the fallout, the clients, the insurance, all the taxes, all that stuff.
Yep. And there's days that I go, man, it was the simplicity of just being able to show up to my job and just put on my headphones and just work, and knowing exactly where this is going to go. But there's days I remember though that I go, man, I could never see myself doing that, that full time. And then, like you said, it's all relative. There's days I leave here that I'm like, man, those are pretty fun days. Then there's days I want to sit there and, cry in my truck, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Because the weight of the project is on your shoulders. If there's something, if you're not on schedule, if you're not below budget, then, it's like, what's up, Addam? Hey, Addam,
something's wrong.
We're
even if
$50K.
It's 100% not my fault. Yeah.
So
they're going, what happened? Even though it's had nothing to really do with me, and it was just something that somebody did, as stupid as if they find somebody, peeing in a bottle and they leave it in a bathtub.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
they don't call the guy that did it because they don't know, but they call me, so everything kind of funnels right back to me.
And then you have to be a dick. You have to be a dick, call the group in and be like, you guys, please don't piss on the job.
You got it.
If you got to piss, come talk to me. We'll sort it out. It's not that important. It's not that important.
Well, people ask me like, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" And sometimes I just go, I run an adult daycare. Basically, is what I do. Yeah. So
I was talking with I was talking with Sean Ramsden. I don't know how fluid you are on social media. Do you do like Instagram, Facebook, like all that?
I used to a lot, but not nearly as much as of late. Yeah, but
okay.
I'm familiar with it. Yeah.
Well, Sean Ramsden runs Bolly's Dad Construction. Sort of like, he's a character on social media. He runs a podcast where he interviews people, but it's really loose and it's really kind of raw. And they're just chatting. Great podcast, great guy. We're friends. We've gotten to be friends. He's from Toronto. He was telling a story about a piss jar getting kicked over, and then it was running down the floor, and he went downstairs. It wasn't his piss bottle, but this piss bottle got kicked over. He went downstairs and it was dripping down onto the superintendent's, the plans or whatever.
Oh my God.
You guys don't piss on the job. If it's a substantial job, they're gonna have an outhouse. Just go down to the outhouse and use it.
It's typically the guys on stilts. They don't want to get down, and so that's usually our culprits. But I got a funny one about that. So just to kind of come full circle. So this was union days, early Addam being in Minnesota. Again, 20 some years old, 22 maybe. It's July. It's hot summer. My brother and I are working for a company in the union. They just sent the two of us to go to do some like a closet or some kind of just kind of end the day kind of in this little tiny job in the school. So we pull up, it's summer, school's out. So we pull in, we get all of our tools, and we're kind of milking this job, trying to get it done. And I had to use the restroom, right? But it wasn't like a full-on job, so there was no biffies, right? So I go, well, you know what? I'll just find the boys' bathroom in the school. Nobody's here.
Sure.
I go looking for the bathroom, right? I couldn't find a boys' bathroom anywhere. I'm like, it's all girls' bathrooms. Say, well, nobody's here. So I'm just going to use it. So I jump in there, close the stall, and of course I had to do, the big one. So I'm in there in the stall. I hear a bell ring, right? The bell goes. I'm like, oh, they probably didn't turn the bells off, right? Because it's, they're not going to. I didn't realize all of a sudden the bathroom floods full of Catholic girls. It was a Catholic girls' school, and it was a summer school, and I had no clue. And here I am going, and I mean, boots go up. I'm in the stall. I mean, I'm like, oh my God. And my brother knew exactly what just happened. So he's
my God.
He's dying. Oh, he's on his back. And I was literally, I walked out of there going, I mean, obviously it was, I didn't know, it was just a dumb mistake, but that was
pretty funny. It's a funny story, but what's funnier is that your brother knew and he didn't say anything. He was like,
no,
this is gonna be great.
When he heard the bell ring, and when he saw all the hallways flooding, it was over. Yeah, so I had
awesome.
I come back, doing the looking around,
that's pretty funny.
Pretty bad. Yeah. Story,
One question I asked, this has been great, is that I've been asking recently has to do with systems, and it has to do with whether it's hiring people or how you're running the project, something that you've been resistant to all your life, but that you switched, you had a change of heart, you tried something new, and it worked out to be really beneficial and much more efficient than the way you used to do it?
That's a really good question. Honestly, are you saying as of late or just in general in my time in
recent shift where you started doing something differently that's really helped your business, but that you were always really resistant to? Maybe you knew it was there and just you were too stubborn to try it out. And finally you were like, you know what, I'm going to try this way. And it ended up being really beneficial.
Well, honestly, a lot of it was the better than ever kind of switch. But that was very early in my career, so
that was early on.
I'm kind of struggling with that. But
yeah,
I don't know. I think a lot of it was I would say products. I was not open to a lot. I've switched over, like when somebody has come up with a new product or a new like say like a new everybody came out with the self drilling, for the screw guns. And those things have been around forever.
Pneumatic.
And they used to jam up, and they never worked, but they came up with one, and it just seems that it's a really good system. So I was reluctant to try that again.
Is that the auto? Are you talking about the auto feed?
Yep.
Okay.
Strips.
Yeah.
So those never really worked, and they've been around a lot longer than people realize.
Yeah.
I didn't like them because they always jammed up, or they never sunk the screw in quite right.
Okay.
Or they'd leave they'd poke out a little. The head wouldn't quite sink.
A little more expensive, right? A little more expensive.
But they've dialed it in now. At least from the one I've been using, it's efficient, and it's okay. Like you said, it's not something I would use on a small project, but on a larger scale.
That's a good one.
I would say that. I don't know. It's tough because drywall to me is. It's an interesting trade. It's one of those trades that I think that has, out of all the different trades, it's kind of been the same. Like, I mean, the boxes have been around since the 60s or 70s, maybe. And,
yeah.
I mean, they've improved on things, maybe in design but a lot of the tools we use and the way we do this thing has been the same for 50 years.
Do you guys use the skimming blades? Those are fairly new.
I haven't yet used a skimming blade. I use an offset blade. It's sheetrock brand. So it's the flat. But it's got like the little jog in it, and it kind of goes up like that. So I use those.
Those are cool.
It's more of a straight edge. They're kind of more rigid. That's just my personal.
People swear by those. I've seen those blades in action too. Might be good for you too, because you probably get wrangled into a patch here and there. But for a big patch, pulling out a patch with no lap line, pretty sweet.
Yep, I do that. We used to use Jarvies too quite a bit on bigger try to flip things. So I mean, we've used a variety. I think out of anybody I've ever met, to be honest, like my brother and my dad, we were always the first people to be very open to new product, new tools, and that's the whole Grabber Kevin connection. Yeah, because they were coming out with things that were very innovative, and new to the industry. And, we were always ready to give it a try, and give us our honest opinion. So I think I've always been, never been too shut down to like, oh, this is the way I've done it and I'll never change. I see something that comes along, I'll always give it a fair shot, what I mean? And doesn't mean it's just the one shot. I might give it a couple shots, it's just a matter of, does it make sense, So yeah, I think I've been pretty open-minded when it comes to that kind of stuff.
And then the other question I ask is a pearl of wisdom that you could bestow onto the drywall community. What would that be?
I wish be patient, slow down. A lot of guys are very rushed into circumstances. I think, unfortunately, it's out of their control. But a lot of my crew, at least in my management style, yes, they're going to work hard. They're going to work fast because the style they get paid. But what tends to happen is that if everybody just took the time, slowed down a little bit, the quality will go up, and they won't have to come back. So a lot of it is just
right.
I try to get the guy, just relax. It's just drywall. At the end of the day, it's just drywall. Let's not overcomplicate it. Let's not get too far into the weeds with it.
Get down off the stilts and go find the urinal.
Go to the bathroom. Yes. I mean, you're right though. I mean, because everything is such at a pace, they don't even want to stop to take the stilts off and go use the restroom. So it's like, calm down. I mean, that would be my opinion. I mean, the drywall world is it's a very big but very small place, as you've probably realized. I mean, you tend to run into everybody that but I'd like to see people enjoy this job a little more, because I mean, I gotta tell you, most of my young youth, once I became good at it and felt confident with it, I really, really enjoyed it. And I got to spend a lot of time with my dad and my brother. Who gets to say that? You know what I mean?
That's cool.
I mean, I literally got to spend most of my 20s every day with my family. And it was a gas. Like, I mean, that's something I'll never get to do again. So, I mean, that was a huge deal. And I got to meet a lot of cool people, and drywall took me to a lot of cool places. And I got to see and do a lot of things, all based on the fact that I knew how to tape. So yeah, it's a very cool opportunity I had, and I'd still keep going. I'm still learning stuff every day. You know, right when you think you have this industry licked, or you think, oh, I've been in this for, you know, I'm 42 now and I've been literally born into this trade.
Yeah. You
think you know it all. And then there's days I show up and I learn 3 new things that I never learned about how a building comes together when it comes to drywall.
Yeah.
And I feel like the new guy all of a sudden, you know, but yeah, I mean, it's fun. You know, there's always something to learn. You know, you got to stay humble. You know, you got to stay, you know, low key and just try to enjoy the time you got on the job, and try to make it enjoyable for others.
I love it. You seem like a pretty cool superintendent. Shout out to your dad, Andy. Shout out to Kevin Bush for
yes, sir.
Suggesting you guys come on the podcast, and also thank you for your time. I know you're a busy man. Thank you for coming on and having this conversation with me today. Everybody that comes on the podcast will get a swag bucket from CSR filled with cool things. One of those things is a 3-way. Have you heard of the 3-way? Little piece of paper that goes up in the corner of your 3-way. You've heard of that?
Yes, I have.
Have you tried them yet?
I have not.
All right. Well, you get one of those, and maybe a tech dry tool, and maybe a color pack and some sealer. You could try doing some fresco harmony or something. But thanks so much for being on the Drywall Podcast again today. Sorry about there's a couple of hiccups, but we'll just cut those out.
Yeah, just cut it all out. Yeah. if you want to get rid of the Catholic schoolgirl incident, that's fine too, because I threw that in there just as a funny.
I love it. No, I love it. That's going to be that's going to be the hook, man. That's going to be at the beginning of the episode. That's going to be the whole hook. And also too, if you tell your guys to check out the Drywall Podcast, yours truly is going to be on there and be like, hey man, I'm going to be on the Drywall Podcast. I think a week from Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, this episode will drop.
Oh, cool.
So that's cool. Yeah. And I hope you have a fantastic, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, man. Hopefully we'll stay in touch.
Absolutely will. Yeah. No, I'm around, and look forward to it. And enjoy you're in New Mexico, right?
Yeah. Albuquerque. Yeah.
Albuquerque. Okay. Right on. Well, if I'm in the area, I'll come by and bug you. So.
All right, sir. You have a good day. We'll talk soon.
You too, Nick. Enjoy.
Bye.
Take care.
Special thanks to Addam for being on the Drywall Podcast today. Nick hopes that he will meet you in the future. I hope that we never meet.
Devil, thank you very much. That is sweet. Special thanks to the Devil for helping us with the outro and a little bit of the intro today. Double shout out to Addam Luce for being with us on the Drywall Podcast today. You are awesome, and I really appreciate your time. Triple shout out to Can-Am Tools for sponsoring the month of November. This week's giveaway is the Pinnacle with a professional tool kit. This kit is a must-have for any drywall professional or enthusiast. It is packed with everything you need for top-notch results. Trust me, you do not want to miss this. Head over to our Instagram page and follow the instructions and enter to win. Think you have an awesome enough story that it deserves to be told on the Drywall Podcast? Or maybe you have a friend who has an equally awesome story that needs to be told on the Drywall Podcast. I'd love to hear from you guys. Reach out to me at info@frescoharmony.com, or you can call me directly, 505-400-9313. Join us next Friday as we have Gloria Fuentes of Glowjoy out of New York. She's awesome, and we have a 2-part conversation about her journey. Until then, I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. Maybe do some exercise to get rid of some of that turkey, and happy Thanksgiving also. And remember, keep drywalling.